At exactly 4:15 a.m. on a rain-slick Tuesday in Las Vegas, Nevada, a gated community sits in dead silence. Then it doesn't. A joint FBI and IRS criminal investigation SWAT team, operating under the tactical call sign Operation Ledger House, rolls up in a heavy Lenco Bearcat G3 armored vehicle. Rain beads on the armored glass. The vehicle's massive ram pushes forward. The heavy iron gates of a luxury estate crumple like tinfoil. Flashbang grenades detonate, flooding the manicured front lawn in blinding white light. Agents in heavy tactical gear pour out the back of the Bearcat, moving with rehearsed precision. They hit the heavy oak front doors with a pneumatic battering ram. 1 hit. 2 hits. The door splinters inward. Splinters of polished oak and twisted brass fly into the marble foyer, the sound echoing off vaulted ceilings. Inside, the target is a man known to the cartel only as El Banquero. He is the financial architect of a massive West Coast laundering hub. He gets dragged from a king-sized bed, his silk sheets tangling around his legs as he thrashes in sheer panic. They handcuff him with heavy steel restraints, wrists pinned behind his back, and escort him past shelves lined with millions of dollars in vacuum-sealed cash bricks. The cash is stacked floor to ceiling, hidden behind a false wall in the master bedroom closet, guarded by a biometric retinal scanner that agents bypass in seconds using a thermal imaging overlay. But the massive tactical display, the Bearcat, the flashbangs, the dynamic entry, none of it started with a wiretap authorized by a federal judge. It didn't start with a confidential informant wearing a wire. It didn't start with a high-speed border pursuit. This multi-million-dollar tactical takedown, spanning 14 months of relentless surveillance, all started because of a single, missing $50 casino chip. One tiny, missing piece of painted clay. A tiny discrepancy that should have vanished into the massive daily noise of the Las Vegas Strip. But it didn't. And that tiny missing chip was about to unravel a $290 million cartel pipeline hiding in plain sight. To understand how a criminal empire fell over $50, you have to look at the unique vulnerability of bulk cash. When the Sinaloa cartel moves industrial quantities of narcotics across the southwestern border, they get paid in mountains of physical paper currency, tens of millions of dollars in small denomination bills. The problem is, you cannot simply walk into a bank and deposit $10 million in worn $20 bills. The federal government requires currency transaction reports for any cash deposit over $10,000. Deposit that much cash and the system automatically flags it. The banks ask questions. Federal regulators get alerted. So, the cartel needs a way to wash the money, to clean it, to make it look like it came from a legitimate business. And for decades, the ultimate cleaning machine in the United States has been the Las Vegas casino. 14 months before the SWAT team breached those iron gates, an off-duty state gaming auditor named Marcus Vance is sitting at a high-limit blackjack table. He is not there on official business. He is just enjoying his weekend. But his brain is wired for numbers. He watches a high roller, a man with no visible source of income, no record of tech wealth or inherited fortune, buy in for $80,000 in pure cash. The pit boss hands over 8 yellow $10,000 chips. Vance watches the man play. He loses $20,000. But when the man cashes out, he walks away from the table, leaving one single $500 chip sitting on the felt. The dealer picks it up. The casino logs it. But later, when Vance overhears the floor supervisor running the daily audit, there is a problem. The chip counts don't match. One $50 chip is completely missing from the cage inventory. Most people would ignore this. A $50 chip in a casino that makes billions is statistical noise. It falls into the cracks of the carpet. But Vance notices that the supervisor doesn't just write it off. He makes a phone call. He doesn't call his own casino manager. He calls someone else. And 30 minutes later, a man in a tailored suit walks onto the floor, hands the supervisor a $50 bill, and takes a physical chip from his pocket to replace the missing one in the tray. It is a tiny, perfectly choreographed patch. But to a gaming auditor, it is a massive red flag. Why would an outside party physically replace a casino's own inventory? Vance quietly files a report with the Nevada Gaming Control Board. The board forwards it to the Las Vegas IRS Criminal Investigation Field Office. The IRS Criminal Investigation Division, or IRS-CI, is the only federal agency authorized to investigate Title 26 and Title 31 violations. They are the financial hunters of the federal government. When the report lands on the desk of Special Agent Sarah Jenkins, she pulls the casino's Form 8,300 filings for the past 12 months. What she finds is staggering. In 1 year, This single casino processed over $412 million in cash. That is not unusual for a mega resort. But when Jenkins isolates the transactions from just one specific underground VIP room, the room where Vance saw the chip replaced, the numbers stop making sense. That single room, operating mostly between midnight and 4 a.m., is pushing through millions in bulk cash every single week. The IRS, CI opens a formal preliminary inquiry. They pull the casino's federal anti-money laundering compliance records. By law, casinos must verify the identity of anyone betting more than $10,000 in cash. Jenkins pulls the player cards for the VIP room. The names are completely fictitious. Jose Martinez, Carlos Ramirez, generic aliases linked to disposable burner phones. The casino's compliance department has simply looked the other way. Agent Jenkins realizes this is not just a few high rollers avoiding taxes. This is a structured, professional money laundering pipeline. She contacts the Las Vegas Organized Crime and Drug Enforcement Task Force. The FBI assigns a dedicated squad. Operation Ledger House is officially born. The task force sets up physical surveillance. They map the VIP room. It is a highly secure, invitation-only lounge located in the basement of the casino, guarded by private security. There are no security cameras pointing at the main gaming tables inside the room. The casino's own internal surveillance has been deliberately blinded. The first major obstacle hits the investigation almost immediately. The FBI technical team attempts to plant covert listening devices inside the VIP room, but the cartel security is paranoid. They use commercial radio frequency scanners to sweep the room every single night before opening for business. The FBI's initial audio surveillance attempts fail completely. The bugs are detected and destroyed. If the cartel suspects they are being recorded, they will vanish, and 14 months of work will evaporate. The solution comes from an unexpected place. Instead of targeting the VIP room itself, the FBI targets the casino's centralized accounting servers. Every time a chip is purchased, redeemed, or moved, a digital receipt is logged in the casino's back-end financial software. The FBI serves a covert federal warrant on the casino's parent corporation. They clone the hard drives. Now, every single chip movement is tracked digitally, in real time, without ever stepping foot inside the room. I spent hours going through the federal case files for this operation, and one detail kept nagging me. The cartel wasn't just using the casino to wash money. They were using the casino's own internal accounting system as their personal banking ledger. The digital surveillance was up and running. The task force had their eyes on the money. But what agents didn't know yet, the mastermind behind the entire operation wasn't a cartel boss hiding in Mexico. He was a local executive, working just floors above their heads. Before the feds could even map the mastermind's daily routine, they needed to understand the human cost of the pipeline. Money laundering isn't a victimless white-collar crime. It is the plumbing of organized crime. To understand the sheer volume of cash being washed through that single VIP room, you have to look at where the money comes from. The DEA cross-references the serial numbers of bulk cash seized in smaller, unrelated traffic stops along Interstate 15. They trace the lineage of the money. One specific bundle of $20 bills, wrapped in rubber bands and hidden inside a spare tire of a Ford F-150 stopped in Barstow, California, is traced directly back to the casino's VIP room. Federal prosecutors later connect that exact batch of cash to a devastating fentanyl distribution ring operating out of a residential neighborhood in Sacramento. In that neighborhood, a 23-year-old father of two suffered a fatal overdose. The toxicology report confirmed carfentanil, a drug so potent that a few grains are lethal. The pills that killed him were sold for a handful of the exact $20 bills that eventually made their way up the I-15 corridor, stuffed into a duffel bag, and handed off in the shadows of the Las Vegas parking garage. Every time a stack of cash was cleaned in that VIP room, it was subsidized by the bodies piling up in cities across the American West. The investigators realized they weren't just following a financial spreadsheet. They were following a trail of grief, disguised as high-limit gambling. Over the next 3 months, the digital surveillance paints a damning picture. The task force watches the data flow. Bulk cash enters the casino in heavy duffel bags. The bags are handed off in the parking garage to a casino employee. The cash is taken into the blind VIP room. It is never counted on the main casino floor. Instead, it is immediately converted into high-denomination chips. Then, the players step in. These are cartel operatives posing as wealthy gamblers. They sit at the baccarat and blackjack tables. They place a few minimum bets. They play for maybe 20 minutes. Then, they cash out. They take their chips to the main casino cage. The cage processes the transaction, takes the casino's standard cut, and issues a clean, legitimate casino check. Here's the take that'll probably get us flack, but it needs to be said. The casino executives in this case didn't just look the other way. They actively built the infrastructure to let this happen. We'll say what most won't. The gaming corporations that allow this to happen on their property are just as complicit as the cartel members moving the cash. They take their profit skim, they ignore the blind spots in their security cameras, and they cry ignorance when the feds kick the doors down. The financial trail reveals the true scale of the operation. For every $100,000 in dirty cash pushed through the VIP room, the cartel pays an 8% fee. $8,000. The casino keeps $4,000. The rest goes to the cartel's local operators. Over 14 months, the Sinaloa cartel launders an estimated $290 million through this single room. The total fee revenue is staggering. But mapping the data is only half the battle. The FBI needs to prove intent. They need an undercover agent inside the room. But there's a massive complication. The VIP room is invite only. To get inside, you have to be vetted by the cartel's local financial architect. If the undercover agent's cover is blown, they will be executed. Period. The FBI turns to a high-level financial broker who has been indicted on separate federal fraud charges. They flip him. He becomes a confidential informant. He arranges for an undercover IRS CI agent, using the alias Tony, to be introduced as a wealthy real estate investor from Miami who needs to wash millions in offshore profits. The meeting takes place in a penthouse suite at the casino. The cartel's financial architect is a man named Raphael. He is smooth, educated, and ruthless. He explains the rules to Tony. The cartel will wash the money, but there is a strict limit. The minimum transaction is $500,000 in cash. Tony agrees. He hands over a bag containing $500,000 in marked bills. What strikes us about this case is the sheer, casual audacity of the white-collar criminal. Raphael isn't hiding in a tunnel or a jungle camp. He is drinking $1,000 scotch in a luxury suite, exploiting the very financial architecture of the United States. It shows that organized crime doesn't just operate in the shadows anymore. It operates in penthouses, exploiting legal loopholes and corporate compliance failures. What's most surprising about this case isn't the $290 million total. It's the physical ease of the transactions. The strangest part? The cartel operatives were literally carrying gym bags stuffed with $500,000 through the main casino floor, right past security, and nobody said a word. The undercover operation was a success. The marked money was in the system. The cartel's architect was on tape. But within 48 hours, a single intercepted phone call would change the entire timeline, forcing the FBI's hand. The operation is moving perfectly. The task force maps the entire network. They identify the courier routes. Bulk cash is driven from Los Angeles to Las Vegas in commercial semi-trucks, hidden inside false bottoms of legitimate freight shipments. The money is cleaned in the casino. The clean casino checks are then deposited into shell corporations registered in Wyoming and Delaware. From there, the clean money is wired directly to cartel bosses in Sinaloa, Mexico. But tracing the money is only half the battle. Proving the intent of the men managing it requires getting one of them to talk. 3 weeks after the undercover penthouse meeting, the task force catches a break. A mid-level courier, tasked with driving a van loaded with $3 million in vacuum-sealed cash from Phoenix to Las Vegas, is pulled over by Arizona Department of Public Safety troopers for a broken taillight. The trooper, operating under a federal drug interdiction program, notices the driver's hands shaking violently as he hands over his license. A K-9 unit circles the vehicle. The dog alerts. The false floor is discovered. The courier is arrested and facing 20 years in federal prison for bulk cash smuggling. He is terrified. The FBI offers him a deal. Cooperate, and the charges drop to a fraction of the time. The courier agrees to be interrogated, and the details he provides in a sterile, windowless interview room in Phoenix pull back the curtain on the cartel's domestic logistics. He explains how the cash is consolidated in stash houses in Los Angeles. He describes the meticulous process of strapping the cash to the undercarriage of commercial freight trucks. He gives up the phone numbers of the dispatchers. But most importantly, he describes the inner workings of the VIP room. He confirms that Raphael demands absolute silence. He reveals that the cartel uses a specific brand of generic black duffel bag because they are sold at every sporting goods store in the country, making them impossible to trace. The courier's testimony provides the crucial bridge between the highway seizures and the penthouse suite, proving that the casino wasn't just a destination for wealthy gamblers. It was the final terminus for a massive, coordinated logistics network. The task force has mapped the entire network, but the central question remains. How do you take down an operation that is technically protected by the legal framework of a billion-dollar casino? Then, disaster strikes. The FBI's wire room intercepts a phone call from Raphael, the cartel's architect. He is talking to a courier. He sounds panicked. "The heat is up," Raphael says. "We burn the room. Move the paper." The FBI's heart drops. Has the undercover agent been compromised? Has the digital surveillance been discovered? Put yourself in the task force commander's shoes for a second. You have an active $290 million network on tape. If you wait, you might lose everything. What would you have done at 3 a.m. with no backup, knowing the target is about to vanish? The FBI has no choice. They cannot risk the cartel destroying the physical evidence. The United States Attorney's Office gets woken up at 3 a.m. They authorize the emergency indictments. Operation Ledger House is forced to accelerate. The quiet financial investigation is about to become a massive, citywide tactical assault. The date is set. The tactical briefing takes place at the FBI field office on Sahara Avenue, just miles from the Las Vegas Strip. The plan is massive. Simultaneous raids. The task force splits into strike teams. At exactly 4:15 a.m., the sky over Las Vegas is pitch black, slicked by a heavy, cold rain. The Bearcat G3 armored vehicle moves into position. The heavy iron gates of the estate crumple under the ram. Flashbangs detonate. Agents breach the doors. Simultaneously, 2 miles away, a second strike team hits the underground VIP room. They use a hydraulic breaching tool to snap the heavy steel security doors. Inside, they find 3 cartel operatives sitting at a baccarat table, surrounded by $10 million in bulk cash. They get thrown to the floor, handcuffed, and arrested. One detail that stuck with me from the after-action reports wasn't the tactical breach. It was the silence. After the flashbangs went off and the targets were face down on the carpet, the only sound in the room was the continuous, mechanical shuffling of the automatic card dealer at the baccarat table. It just kept dealing to an empty table. The raids were a total success. The tactical phase was over. But the real battle, the financial decapitation of the cartel, was just beginning. The evidence teams move in. They process the luxury estate, the VIP room, and the casino's accounting servers. In the basement VIP room, forensic accountants spend 72 straight hours cataloging the physical evidence. They wear white latex gloves, carefully slicing open the vacuum-sealed cash bricks with razor blades. The smell of musty paper currency and stale cigar smoke hangs heavy in the windowless room. Every single bill is counted by an automated jet sort machine, whirring loudly as it tallies the massive haul. They seize physical cash. They seize casino chips. They seize luxury vehicles. But perhaps the most damning evidence isn't found in the cash bricks. It is found in the trash. A meticulous IRS CI evidence technician discovers a shredded, handwritten ledger in a wastepaper basket near the VIP room's back exit. The technician carefully extracts the strips of paper, placing them into sterile evidence bags. Days later, at the FBI's forensic laboratory in Quantico, analysts spend weeks using infrared imaging and chemical analysis to reconstruct the document. When the pieces are finally digitally stitched together, the ledger provides a perfect, itemized breakdown of the daily cash drops, the exact 8% laundering fees, and the initials of the casino executives who signed off on the illegal transactions. It is the smoking gun that eliminates any defense of plausible deniability for the casino's upper management. The total value of the laundered assets seized in the raid is $112 million. The United States Attorney's Office hands down 42 federal indictments. The charges range from RICO conspiracy to international money laundering. The cartel's local architect, Raphael, is convicted and sentenced to 25 years in federal prison. The casino executives who facilitated the blind spots are indicted on federal compliance failures. The casino's gaming license is suspended pending a massive federal review. The financial hub is completely dismantled. The Sinaloa cartel loses their primary West Coast cleaning machine. $112 million is seized. 42 people are taken out of the network. We cut a specific detail about the shell corporations used in this case for length. The paper trail is over 3,000 pages. Comment more if you want a part 2 breaking down exactly how the cartel hid the clean money in U.S. real estate. If a single missing $50 chip could expose a $290 million network hiding in plain sight, how many other high roller rooms are currently serving as silent vaults for organized crime? The system is designed to move money, and money leaves a trail. We track what comes next. Subscribe to the Bureau Files so the next case finds you first. Today, the single $50 casino chip that started it all sits in an evidence bag locked inside an IRS CI vault in Washington, DCA tiny, painted piece of clay that brought down an empire. The money stopped moving. The casino lights dimmed. But somewhere, in another city, another VIP room is opening its doors.